Hi, authors. So today we're going to talk about the different types of editing that exist. So there's four major types of editing that we're going to talk about. The first one is developmental editing. This is considered to be like the highest level of editing that a person can get. And the reason for it is because it looks at pretty much every aspect of the book. So the plot, the character development, how the story is told, how it's paced, etc., etc. It looks at voice, it looks at tone, it looks at structure, it looks at all of those things. And it tries to break it down and make the story flow as well as possible or as smoothly as possible. So developmental editing is the highest level. And also, because it is the highest level, it has a tendency to cost the most out of all other forms of editing that exist. Then we have then we have line or copy editing. So line or copy editing, these are actually two different forms of editing, but most of the times they're used interchangeably. But line or copy editing has to do with like sentence by sentence structure. So your grammar, your syntax, all those types of things to make sure that the way that your sentences are flowing in a very minute way, whether or not they're flowing correctly overall. And then the last form is proofreading. So proofreading is just checking those lingering errors, like little mistakes here, a period, a comma, those types of things to make sure dialogue tags, make sure those things are done correctly. So proofreading is like the lowest form of editing. Then on the other side of this, we have self-editing. So self-editing could be all three of the ones that we just talked about. So you can do a self-developmental edit, which is sometimes not necessarily something that is encouraged because of the fact that since you are the author of the book, your eyes have been on it for the longest. So as a result of that, you may not have the best perspective of looking at your own book from a developmental standpoint, but that's not to say that it can't be done. So you can break down the story piece by piece, and you can say, okay, so today I'm going to focus on my characters and make sure that my characters are in line with each other. They're in line with themselves. They're not veering off from who they are as a person. Then the next day or the next week or whatever, you could say that you're going to look at the plot and the pacing, etc., etc. So you can technically do a developmental edit yourself, but it's just suggested that you get an outside source to do that. Then we got line or copy editing as a self-edit. You can use different tools to help you with this, like for instance, Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid. Those have controversial views about them. So some people would highly recommend at least Pro Writing Aid or Grammarly, and then some people would not recommend it, and they would say that it kind of takes away from what it's supposed to do. But I feel like any tool, if you use it the right way, it can be beneficial for you in your writing. And then we have, you can do your own proofread as well. So if it would kind of require you to actually know how to proofread in order to do your own proofread, but you can do your own proofread as well as a self-editor. And then even if you do your own self-edit, I would suggest, at least for most of your books, until you get like a good level of experience with it, I would suggest that you at least have another set of eyes, at least just read through the book for you, just to make sure that you in fact did everything correctly. So those are the different forms of editing. That's all we have for today. Be back next week for more.